lately had a few things on my mind. One is the sale of my dad's house has finally been finalized, although my technically it's my mom's house, and she has dementia, and so I'm her power of attorney. And well, so it's basically essentially been up to me, everything from cleaning it out. The house has been vacant for about 4 years, and the siding and the paint on it got pretty bad. But it didn't take long. Once it was on the market, I thought I would have the summer to do even more work to it. But I guess the way housing is right now, and they say it's a buyer's market, which I can see because I feel that it's worth more than what it's selling for, because my dad and I built it to the point of we actually cut the lumber for it. I mean, we cut the trees out of the woods for his house, and then he took it to a friend who had a lumber mill, and his friend milled all the lumber for us, and then we hauled that lumber right across the province to build the house. So 80, 90, 95% of the house itself was made from our very own wood. So it was a solid structure inside, had a beautiful, I guess you would call it like an open ceiling, open living room, where the dining room and the living room were one, if you wanted to have it that way. And it was a beautiful house. I hand stained the open black charcoal beams. We had 2x10s inside, very solid roof with the Gruvantang pine on top, and perboard insulation, plywood, shingles, and it was a wonderful home. Right now, I'm not doing too bad, but I have, in the last couple of days, been going through as a closing date for the house comes very, very close. Everything works well. I mean, we have to get some official documentation on Mom, which is very difficult because she's in her 80s, she doesn't drive, she's in a senior's home, and you know, really, that's very difficult because legally, I mean, we pay all our bills, from her account, of course, and so we have to find enough evidence that she's the owner of the property, in a sense. But barring that, we should be all fine. The sale has been gone through, the deal has been firmed, but my heart aches because it's like someone has said, I have to start a new chapter, and the old chapter, well, it was a long one. I mean, we built the house very early 80s, late 70s, and my parents lived in it for over 40 years. My mom really doesn't have any recollection of it, actually, because with her dementia, she doesn't remember the house she was in for 40 years, which is absurdly amazing. But, and she can forget things on a 24-hour basis, but, and she can remember other things maybe years and years before that, like the place we actually lived in. And there you are, little fella. But she can't remember. I hear you. But she can't remember 40 years of living in this house that Dad built for her. And I mean, it was one of those things where it wasn't just the family home. It was the fact that, I basically, I put up gyprock, I did the studs, insulation. I mean, I didn't do the wiring, of course, because I'm not an electrician. But I did all those things. And I was only really young. I learned a lot. I'm now 62. And it's very, very sad. There's moments that'll come over me. I don't know for you, but there are moments that are very, very sad for me, where, as someone else has said on another blog, I have to move on. And maybe in a good way, it'll be a good thing that I do end up losing the property, because now I can't go visit it anymore. But as soon as I drive in the driveway, I mean, I felt like Dad should be there. I didn't mention that Dad died in 2021, and that's when Mom moved into a home. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's incredibly sad. Sometimes puts me in a point of depression, place of depression, thinking about all the memories that were there, the memories I had with him. Some of them I can remember, even the jokes we had while we were building the house. I mean, we'd be like one little funny little thing we'd say is, if something got tangled up, if you were on the roof or something and you had a rope and something got tangled up, we would joke based on the old Bugs Bunny Roadrunner cartoons, where Wile E. Coyote would, his life depended on that rope and it would untangle. So if something got tangled up, I don't know, an electrical cord or whatever, we'd say falling over a cliff, falling over a cliff. And it was a reference to sort of Wile E. Coyote's, his shenanigans that he went through. And, well, yeah, it's very sad. Another one was I can literally remember being on the roof, nailing in shingles and roofing shingles. And then if you get a bad roofing nail, or, one that's stuck together, or two of them, or the wrong size or something, we would say the name of the guy his name was Richard. I mean, he might long since been gone, but he was in charge. He was in charge of the the hardware department that sold the nails and screws. And so back then we joked, and if we pulled out a bad nail, we'd just go, Richard, like that. Almost like it was a curse word. But it was all for fun, and I designed the home a lot myself. I was taking architectural drafting in high school. And so, I drew up and planned. It had an inner balcony inside. Yeah, I did another video where I talked about just how sad it was for me. One of the last trips down. I think I'm going to have one more trip. Yeah, by the way, the place is, if you haven't seen another video on this, it's a 5-hour round trip if you stop for lunch. So it was a lot of work, because, we'd drive down there. A lot of times it was just day trips, me and my son, and sometimes my wife too. They were all great helps. And I'd pay my son, a stipend or something for the day to come down. He was older and helped me. And my other son too, So, been a long, long journey. It looks like it's coming to an end. And as journeys do, but it is difficult when you're in your 60s. You're starting to see a lot of chapters end. And you're wondering, you're wondering, well, there's no 40-year chapter ahead, probably. I mean, that would put me 100, which is highly unlikely. So it's a new era. I can say that it's kind of a death, actually. The house and the property were such a mess that I did do a video called Dad's Last Message. And in that video, I expressed a lot of anger, I guess, toward him for letting the property go so bad, that it just took me having health issues. And, I was out medically for almost a year of that 4 years, and we had COVID, we had fires. Yeah, I mentioned all those things before. But I was angry at him. And even having to do his funeral was in a remote place where he lived, is actually where we cut the wood in Guysborough County. And it was, hours and hours to get to that for my family, because he wanted to be buried there. So in the fall of 21, we buried him there. And of course I was sad to say goodbye to my dad. But But also I would get very, very sad, and then I would go down to the house and I'd open the basement door, see the yard full of tractor parts and tires and whatever. It's just, yeah. Just check out the other videos if you want to see what a situation it was. And I would leave that house angry. Yeah, angry. And then I would have to winterize it in the late fall because we couldn't drive, you know, through the storms to get there and work on it because we didn't live close. And that's one of the big issues you're going to find if you're dealing with a loved one's home. You're going to, you know, you're going to deal with all these issues. And the emotional issue is one of the most difficult ones, because you go through a time where you're actually quite angry and sad at your parents at the same time. And that makes it difficult. It really, really does. So inside, yeah, I have days where I'm so low, I don't know what to do, you know. But I guess I got to keep going. As people say, it may actually be a relief to me. You know, I've had anxiety issues in the past and dealt with anxiety and also some mental health issues that in that way, and where I've had to have medication for a while and some behavioral therapy, I guess it was. And I don't do it as much, but I should do, you know, things to help you. Anyway, back to the subject, like practices like mindfulness, and I should be doing that more often. But it really is a difficult time for us. And people say, oh, you're lucky that your folks did have a home. But where they live, there's no jobs. There's nothing a person can do, you know, down there. And I just wasn't ready to go a full-on retirement that I could move to that area. There really is no basic dental, or there's some basic medical help in that area, but yeah, it's not so great there. So it wasn't, you basically have to have a very reliable vehicle, because if you want to go anywhere, it's oh, just for the record, this is where I buried a few years ago, several years ago. Actually, it might have been almost the same time my dad died. We had a family rabbit that lived to be 11 years old. No kidding, yeah. And so this is where we buried him. It's quite a view up here. You can see across the valley. But yeah, I can have times where I'm really, really sad. But I'm hoping that by not going there, in some ways, I will begin to forget Dad. Mom is in a home in a very similar area. So I suppose I will make more trips and see her, and I won't have to turn off the road, so to speak, and go in to the driveway, whereas I was going to say earlier, and when I go in the driveway where the house is, I start to think, Dad should be here. He should be here when I drive in. He should be working in the basement in a small engine repair. God, it's hard. But he lived a good long life. I guess that's something for us here. But somehow, you know, people will say that, you know, like they'll say, well, he lived a long life, or so-and-so lived a long life. But you know, it doesn't feel long. It really doesn't. When you get there, when you're 60 or 80 or whatever, and you think, wow, you had a good long life. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I was brought up to think there was more on the other side or something. Other side of this life. And maybe there is. But it doesn't seem like a lot. But I guess that's where I'll stop this video. And I just want to say that if you're out there and you've gone through the same thing where you've lost the family home, you've had to sell it, and maybe even in my case, you helped build, you built the house, you cleared the property, we made the well rings, we did everything but pour the basement concrete. We did even the footing ourselves, and we did that by hand, so to speak, with a mixer. But we did even hand mix the well rings that we made. To have that kind of a real tactile sense of the house, and to see it go and not be passed down to someone else in the family, really tough, really tough. Yeah. Well, you guys, I guess this is the time to start a new chapter. And as someone said, not to revisit that place may actually be in my own personal best interest. And as time goes by, it's like a death, as I was starting to say, it's like a death, and it has to be buried, and someone else is taking it over, a young person, and they can fix it up. And so that's all I have to say. Hang in there if you're going through the same thing. Beautiful view here.